So the Democrats are trying to get to the bottom of what happened in 2024. And the Nation put out an op-ed here. The Democratic Party remains committed to learning nothing from its 2024 defeat. The Democratic National Committee's forthcoming autopsy is a cover-up to protect the failed leaders who twice lost to Trump. So this is from The Nation. The Democratic Party elite in the last decade had not reacted to two crushing losses to Donald Trump in presidential elections with the spirit of candid self-criticism. Rather, party leaders have preferred to indulge in self-exculpation and find scapegoats for their own failures. In 2017, Vox reported that, quote, Hillary Clinton doesn't believe she or her campaign made any significant mistakes in the 2016 election. But speaking at the Code Conference on Wednesday, she had a long list of others she blames for her defeat. She points the finger at who? Russia, of course. That was really what explained Russiagate. Fake news, the sorry state of the Democratic Party, sexism, and the media that covered the email scandal like Pearl Harbor, among others. Strikingly, the Clinton campaign never released a formal postmortem on the 2016 election, which left the party with an array of partial reports from divergent groups offering competing explanations that were little more than factional briefs. With the 2024 defeat, the DNC has commissioned an autopsy, which is currently being prepared by Paul Rivera, a longtime party insider. There is, alas, no reason to hope for much from this forthcoming postmortem. On Saturday, the New York Times reported that this will follow the Clintonian model of avoiding self-criticism and instead blame convenient scapegoats, that it is expected to mostly steer clear of the decisions made by the Biden-turned-Harris campaign and will focus more heavily instead on actions taken by allied groups. Instead of focusing on decisions made by Harris, Biden, and their key advisors, the report is preparing to make a scapegoat of Future Forward, a super PAC that spent $560 million on the election. The indictment is that Future Forward focused excessively on TV ads, didn't coordinate messaging with the Harris campaign, and didn't do enough attacks on Trump. The problem with this narrative is that even if one stipulates for the sake of argument that every accusation against Future Forward is true, it doesn't really explain the scale of the 2024 defeat. To write about the 2024 without talking about the decisions made by Biden, Harris, and their inner circle is, as the Times suggests, like eating at a steakhouse and then reviewing the salad. Yes, that is very well put. The upcoming DNC autopsy is shaking up to be an exercise in deflection, distraction, and scapegoating. A more honest autopsy would run something like this. The original sin of the campaign was Joe Biden's decision to run again, despite polling repeatedly showing voters thought he was too old and frail for the job. This decision disillusioned voters and made Donald Trump a plausible alternative. Yes, of course. Remember June 27th, less than 30 minutes in, and this election is over. This was really the moment that marked the beginning of the end for the Biden campaign.
Continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Oh, wow.
He's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
Yeah, he beat it to death. When Biden finally dropped out, Kamala Harris initially won a wave of support from those disillusioned voters, but she frittered it away by refusing to dissociate herself from Joe Biden's unpopular policies, including, for a crucial block of younger voters, Biden's unwavering support of Israel's horrific Gaza onslaught, which you see actually, I think you see how many votes they left on the table by embracing Israel to the extent that they did in Mamdani's win. I think what the Mamdani win in New York proved is that, no, there actually were a lot of people who could have been animated by that had you reined Israel in. But they made, of course, the calculated decision not to do that. Not only did they not do that, here are the Democratic delegates and bigwigs outside of the Chicago convention. Here is their response to protesters, the pro-Palestine protesters.
Let us be children, such again. Say it again. Mock them again. Mock the children again. Do it again. Do it again.
18 years old. 18 years old. Yusuf Hassan. 18 years old. Turn around and
See, that should be in the autopsy. That should be in the post-election
you would think.
report.
You would think.
What about this? Kamala responds.
Our delegates are repulsive.
Yes,
now, we're
right,
not sure
exactly.
what we can do about that.
That's right. Kamala responds to pro-Palestinian protesters in Pennsylvania, shouting Kamala supports genocide and fuck you at a rally in PA. This is, of course, how she handled that.
Pledge to seek common ground and common sense solutions to the challenges you face. Let me say something. We are 6 days out of an election. We are 6 days away from an election. And ours is about a fight for democracy and your right to be heard. Look, everybody has a right to be heard, but right now I am speaking.
I am speaking. That's right. Now, this is a good find here. Good find by Gen X girl here. I had not heard this before, but Sabby Sabs originally tweeted this out. So this is in October. It's right down the home stretch. A caller asks Kamala about sending money to other countries versus taking care of Americans. So this is a caller into the Breakfast Club show.
question for Kamala is, why are we, and I say we because my tax dollars is sending the money, why are we sending money to other countries when we desperately need it in our own country for homeless, housing, resources, for whatever? That is my determining factor if I vote for Kamala or not.
Okay, so their answer is, why are we sending all this money overseas when we need it back here? Now, what's funny about this, and this just shows what an absolutely horrible candidate Kamala was, is Charlemagne butts in and tries to like coach her through a good answer here. He says, listen.
That's one of the reasons the America First rhetoric resonates, because nobody in America would complain about where money was going if American citizens' everyday needs were being met. So what do you say to that?
We can do it all, and we do.
So he says, we could do, like, he jumps in and, as a way of saying to her live on air, okay, now give a good answer here, because this is a real sentiment out there that people are hurting, and we're sending all this money to Israel, basically. So just so you know, take this one seriously. Don't give a flippant non-answer.
America would complain about where money was going if American citizens' everyday needs were being met. So what do you say to that?
We can do it all, and we do.
Okay. All right. Guess that advice went in one ear and out the other. Yeah. So the fact that they are looking to pin this on the failings of a super PAC for misallocation of resources is a version of the old Democrat argument that it's the messaging. No, it's not the messaging. It's who you are and what you represent. As you could see right there. People screaming about Gaza, about Palestine, all through the campaign. Polling indicated that the number one reason why people who voted Biden in 2020 did not vote Kamala in 2024 was because of support for Israel, which she promised, of course, would not change, and was very dismissive of people who asked, hey, why are we sending this money to Israel when we can put it here? Very dismissive of protesters at repeat rallies, disrupting her, shouting her down with Free Palestine type chants. And so the fact that they are looking to essentially look past the failings of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and instead sort of, chalk this up to, unwise spending of money by a big super PAC is, of course, just laughable. It's laughable. Now, what I will say is, to play devil's advocate, I don't think you need to spend that much time if your goal of doing an autopsy is to figure out where the party needs to go moving forward. I don't think you have to spill that much ink over how bad Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were, or Hillary Clinton for that matter. I mean, when you think about this, what this story made me think about is think of the last time the Democrats nominated someone who didn't make your toes curl with cringe whenever they opened their mouth. That was 2012. That's the last time they had a candidate who was even serviceable.
It was not repulsive.
It was not repulsive. Like, you look at a guy like John Ossoff. I haven't paid much attention to him or what his politics are. He's had a couple of viral moments recently talking about anti-corruption and this and that. I'm not going to say one way or another. Odds are he's a piece of shit. But you can watch John Ossoff speak for 15 seconds without having giving yourself a Charlie horse.
Viscerally negative reaction.
Yeah, like it's been so long since they had someone who just didn't make you throw up in your mouth the second they open theirs. Now, once again, if you're writing if your goal is to steer the party in a certain direction, do you need to write 500 pages on the personal failings of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden? No, but you do have to spill a lot of ink on the party apparatus that elevated these people who had no business being elevated to those roles within the party. And you also have to look at, okay, what did it take to keep Joe Biden as insulated from this pressure to drop out for so long, which we're going to get a little more into in the next segment in very comedic fashion with the Hunter Biden interview that he gave to Channel 5. But basically, you have right now a party infrastructure that I won't even say prioritizes, that just stands for career elevation and ladder climbing at the expense of literally everything else. That's why no one was around who could actually impart any kind of wisdom on any of these leaders because nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody wanted to hear it. And so if you're going to do an autopsy, do we really need to hear that Joe Biden's brains were mush? No, but you need to hear about why it was so impossible for anybody to even get a hearing when they suggested he shouldn't run again. Simone Sanders, it's an open and shut. Well, there's not going to be a primary because they don't want one, right? That's what you need to be looking at. Because you're coming up on after the midterms, it's going to be yet another primary season, and what an event that is shaping up to be so far. It'll be interesting to see how the party reacts to some of these younger people who are going to be able to at least run for the first time in a while in a primary that I won't say they won't rig it. Who knows who they'll rig it for? There's not a clear anointed person. Right. In 2020, Biden was the clearly anointed person. He wouldn't lasted 6 weeks in that primary if he weren't being propped up. Hillary Clinton, 2016, we know how that went. And then this ended up being a nightmare. And that's one more thing. I know I'm going on a little long, but the other thing you have to examine is if you didn't want Kamala to succeed Biden, which a lot of the party bosses didn't, then why was she elevated to vice president in the first place?
Well,
that
they
ended
did
up being
want
a
her to succeed
disastrous
Biden.
decision. They didn't. Yeah. Obama wanted somebody else. Even Pelosi wanted somebody else. So then why did she get picked for vice president? Because you knew there was a strong possibility that Biden wasn't going to be able to go the distance.
No, some didn't, but they did, more broadly speaking.
Right.
The reason they cannot interrogate their failings is because the party is still run by the same people who caused it. And it's not simply willful avoidance. It's also complete unsuitability to do that kind of analysis. They lack that kind of self-awareness. To really interrogate what's wrong with the Democratic Party, they'd have to be honest in a way that would indict most of the people who still run the party today and acolytes of those people, like, why did we pick Hillary Clinton before anybody voted?
Right.
They'd have to get back into that kind of thing. They'd have to really take apart the whole way that they select candidates. And going to your point, they haven't had a candidate that doesn't make you want to lose your lunch since 2012. Well, there's a reason for that. And we saw it very clearly in the DNC chair race, almost a caricature of this reality. The Clinton ascension signaled the triumph of the so-called new left with its fixation on identity politics as the definition of leftism. And the reason this got elevated is it opened up the floodgates of Wall Street money. This is the reason that this niche academic obsession with identity and race and gender and sexuality got elevated to such a prominent place in Democratic Party politics. Is you can have those politics without it putting you at a financial disadvantage. You can soak up all the Wall Street money you want. They don't care. You could have a pride parade every day of the year as long as it's not costing them any money. In fact, they kind of like that because rich people very often are looking for a way to justify their wealth by cloaking themselves in virtue. In former times, they would do that by endowing churches, by demonstrating themselves as very religious and very pious. So giving them some kind of a secular religion to cloak themselves in, to wrap themselves in a cloak of virtue while raping the country and raping the treasury. That was a perfect ideology. It was a perfect marriage of interests. But the kind of party and the kind of people who result from that, not just within the political realm. This is what happened largely in entertainment. It's what destroyed a lot of these formerly indestructible franchises under Disney and others. The people who got elevated to the top came up in this university system that had completely torched economic analysis as a basis of progressivism and entirely embraced identitarianism. The kinds of people who are attracted to those kinds of politics and the kinds of people that those kinds of politics produce in turn are repulsive people. They're repulsive people. That's why the libs are so off-putting when you sit down, you have a conversation with them. It's like they relentlessly insist on defending these virtue signaling gestures that pervade a culture that is designed to appeal specifically to them. And that is really key to what elevated Donald Trump and his ilk, who are also repulsive, but they're repulsive in a way that's less aggressively offensive to most people because it's designed to pretend to be one of the people. Whereas what the Democratic Party has become is very much the product of the kind of elite academic idea of progressivism that's left when you eliminate the point of view of workers and unions from your politics.
Well, yeah, which is why, Obama's line throughout his presidency is simply that you must go to school and get a 4-year degree because we are the new ordinary people, right? We are the new
ordinary people. So you can be one of us.
Right. So you can be one of us because we're normal and you're not normal unless you're like us, right? And so, that does definitely inform a lot of it. When it's almost farcical it's almost farcical that they didn't outsource this to someone else. Like, why are you getting Paul Rivera, who's they're
an afraid of what they would say
because they're afraid of what they would say. If they were serious, what they would do is they would basically commission a study the way they were going to give that girl $20 million to find out how to win the men back. They would do something like that. But for ordinary people, they would hire, frankly, what they would do? They would hire guys like us, not that we would do it, but they'd hire people in this kind of space, activists, alternative media people to come and do like a conference. And it would basically be a giant like struggle session for them. Okay, this is why you suck. This is what you have to do to not suck anymore. That would make a modicum of sense. To keep this in-house, well, you may as well not do it. Of course, what we said, it's all about careerism. They don't want to outsource it. It's all gig flow. That's all the party is.
Please clap.